I'm Josephine, 29, and the day my life fell apart started with a furious knock on my door at 5 in the morning. My neighbor stood there in a hoodie and bare feet, eyes wide like he'd seen a ghost. And the first thing he said was, "Don't go to work today. Just trust me." At 5 a.m., that sounded insane. By noon, when my phone wouldn't stop ringing and my boss was trying to pin a crime on me, I understood exactly why he'd come, and by the end of that week, the people who tried to destroy me wished I had gone to work that day, because they never saw my revenge coming. My name is Josephine. I'm 29, and until a few months ago, I thought my life was finally on track. I worked as an accounts manager at a mid-sized marketing agency in the city called Brightline Creative. It wasn't glamorous, but I was proud of it. I'd worked my way up from an unpaid intern to the person who handled client invoices, payroll reports, and expense approvals. People came to me when numbers didn't make sense. I liked that. Numbers, unlike people, don't lie. People, on the other hand, people lie all the time. The first cracks in my perfect little routine appeared 3 months before that 5 a.m. knock. It started with my boss, Daniel. Daniel was the kind of man who smiled with his teeth, not his eyes. He was in his early 40s, expensive suits, expensive haircut, and an ego that couldn't fit in our building's tiny elevator. At first, he seemed like your typical demanding boss. Late-night emails, last-minute requests, "Can you just do this one more thing?" But then there was Megan. Megan was my closest friend at the office. We'd started as interns together, survived horrible coffee, creepy clients, and endless nights formatting PowerPoints. We celebrated each other's birthdays, split Uber rides home, and she knew everything about me: my breakup last year, my money worries, the fact that I'd taken on extra freelance work just to keep up with rent. I trusted her completely. So when I started seeing invoices that didn't make sense, duplicate vendor names, odd amounts, rush payments to companies I'd never heard of, I went to Megan first. "Hey," I said one afternoon, sliding my chair over to her desk with a printed invoice in my hand. "Do you know who Northbridge Solutions is? They're not in our vendor list, but they've got 3 payments pending this month." Megan didn't even look up from her screen. "Yeah, Daniel approved those. New tech vendor or something. Just process them. You know how he is about delays." I nodded, but a little voice in the back of my mind whispered, "This feels wrong." Still, I processed them. Daniel had signed off, after all. I wasn't paid to argue with signatures. Then, a week later, I overheard something I wasn't supposed to. It was late. Most people had gone home. I was grabbing my coat when I heard voices coming from Daniel's office. The door was ajar. "I'm telling you, she won't suspect a thing," Daniel's voice said, low and irritated. "She's too busy trying to prove herself," Megan answered, her tone sharp in a way I'd never heard before. "And what if she does start asking questions? You've dumped a lot on her plate," Daniel scoffed. "That's the beauty of it. The numbers all go through her. The approvals all trace back to her. And when the auditors come, well, who else are they going to blame?" My heart stopped. I backed away from the door, quiet as I could, and slipped into the bathroom until my hands stopped shaking. Was I hearing that right? Were they talking about me? Was this some sort of joke? By the time I left the building, the night air felt colder, heavier. I pulled my coat tighter and walked home on autopilot, my mind replaying their words. When I got back to my apartment building, I ran into my neighbor in the hallway, Liam. Liam lived across from me. He was in his early 30s, messy dark hair, always carrying some toolbox or cable. He worked in IT security for a different company and usually smelled like coffee and solder. We weren't super close, but we were friendly. Shared takeout once or twice. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, leaning against his apartment door. I forced a laugh. "Just a long day. Office drama. You know how it is." "Unfortunately, yeah." His eyes lingered on me for a second, like he wanted to ask more, but he didn't. "Get some sleep, Joe." I wish I'd told him then. I wish I'd told someone. Instead, I went inside, shut the door, and convinced myself I'd misunderstood. Maybe they weren't talking about me. Maybe it was about a client. Maybe I was being paranoid. The next 2 weeks were a slow descent into a knees. More odd invoices. More rush payments. More pressure from Daniel. "Just process them," he'd snap if I hesitated. "Do you want to hold up the whole company because you can't follow a simple instruction?" And Megan started to change. She'd pull away when I walked into the break room, cut our lunches short, stop replying to my late-night memes. One Friday, I finally asked her directly, are you mad at me or something? I blurted out while we were alone near the copier. She looked startled, then annoyed. Why would I be mad at you? I don't know, I said, feeling stupid. You've just been distant. She sighed dramatically. Joe, not everything is about you. I've got my own stuff going on. That stung more than I expected. Still, life moved on. Monday came, then Tuesday, and then came that Wednesday. The day of the 5 a.m. knock. I remember the sound first. Bang, bang, bang. I shot awake, heart pounding, disoriented in the dark. My phone said 5:03 a.m. For a second, I thought I was dreaming, but then came another set of knocks, harder this time. Josephine. Open up. It's me. The voice was familiar. Liam. I stumbled to the door, still in an oversized t-shirt, and peered through the peephole. There he was, hair a mess, hoodie thrown on, no shoes, eyes wide with urgency. I undid the chain and opened the door a crack. Liam, what the hell do you know what time it is? He didn't smile. He didn't apologize. That alone terrified me. Don't go to work today, he said. Just trust me. I blinked. What? Don't go, he repeated. Call in sick. Tell them you have food poisoning. Your grandma died. I don't care. Just don't step into that office. I stared at him, my head spinning. Liam, you're freaking me out. What's going on? He ran a hand through his hair, glancing down the hallway as if someone might be listening. I can't explain everything right now, but I know something is about to go down at your company, and it's not going to be good for you. My chest tightened. What do you mean not good? Like, lawyers, police, the whole thing. His voice dropped. I overheard something last night. 2 guys in the lobby were talking. One of them mentioned your name. They said, by tomorrow afternoon, she'll be out of the way, and the books will tie everything back to her. I felt the blood drain from my face. I thought at first maybe I misheard, he continued quickly. But then one of them said your boss's name. Daniel. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself. Daniel. Images flickered in my mind, those weird invoices. The whispers in Daniel's office, the way Megan had been avoiding me. I don't understand, I whispered. Why would they do that? I don't know, Liam said. But whatever they've set up, they're expecting you to be there. To walk right into it. He took a step closer. So don't, stay home. You can hate me later if I'm wrong. But if I'm right, he paused. If I'm right, going in today could ruin your life. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. I can't just not show up, I protested weakly. We have a quarterly review meeting today. The auditors are coming in. Daniel already yelled at me about having everything prepared. Liam's eyes hardened. Exactly. That's why I'm here. Silence stretched between us. The kind of silence that feels like the air just before a storm. Finally, I nodded, more to myself than to him. Okay, fine. I'll call in sick. Relief washed over his face. Good. Don't answer unknown numbers. If anything weird happens, come straight to my place, okay? Liam, you're scaring me, I said again, but this time it came out small. Better scared than blindsided, he replied. Lock your door. Try to get some more sleep. Sleep was obviously a joke, but I nodded anyway. When I shut the door, my hands were shaking. I slid down to the floor and sat there in the dim light of the hallway, trying to process what just happened. Part of me wanted to dismiss it as paranoia, his and mine. But the other part remembered Daniel's voice. When the auditors come, who else are they going to blame? I called in sick at 7:30 a.m. Hey, it's Josephine, I said when the receptionist picked up. I tried to sound hoarse. I think I've got food poisoning. I've been up all night. I'm so sorry, but I can't come in today. There was a pause. Oh, she said. Okay. I'll let Daniel know. I hung up and paced my apartment. I made coffee. I didn't drink it. I sat on the couch with my laptop open, staring at my email inbox, but not really reading anything. At 9 a.m. Daniel called. I let it go to voicemail. At 9:10, Megan texted, you picked the worst day to be sick. Daniel is furious. Are you seriously not coming? I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I typed, I'm really sick. I'm sorry, then deleted it. Instead, I wrote, can't talk. I'll explain later. My heart thudded in my chest. At 10:30, my phone buzzed again. This time it was an unknown number. I ignored it. It called again and again. Finally, at 11:02, a voicemail came through. I listened with my stomach in knots. Miss Carter, This is Detective Laura Hayes with the Financial Crimes Unit. We'd like to speak to you regarding some irregularities discovered at Brightline Creative this morning. Please contact us as soon as possible. My vision blurred. I replayed the message 3 times, hoping I'd misheard. I hadn't. I called Liam. He picked up on the first ring. Yeah, they called me, I said, my voice trembling. The police. Financial crimes. They're at my office. There was a short silence. I'm coming over, he said. Within minutes, he was at my door. This time he was dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, shoes on, hair slightly less chaotic. Okay, he said, stepping inside. Tell me exactly what the message said. I repeated it word for word. He nodded slowly. They've moved faster than I thought. They must have wanted you there, so you'd panic and incriminate yourself, or react in some way they could use. I rubbed my temples. Liam, what if they really think I did something? What if someone's been using my credentials? I mean, it all goes through me, remember? The invoices, the approvals. He studied me carefully. Josephine, have you noticed anything weird with your accounts? Your login? Files being changed? I hesitated, then told him everything. The suspicious invoices, the overheard conversation, Megan's sudden distance. By the time I finished, his expression was grim. They're laundering money through fake vendors and routing it through accounts you manage. When the auditors came, they discovered the irregularities. And guess whose name is all over the paperwork? Mine, I whispered. Tears stung my eyes. I'm such an idiot. I should have said something weeks ago. I thought I was being paranoid. You're not an idiot, he said firmly. They counted on you doubting yourself. That's how people like that operate. I sank onto the couch, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. What do I do now? If the police think I'm involved, we don't panic, he said. We get ahead of this. You said everything went through your company laptop and internal system, right? Yeah. Good, he replied. Because systems leave trails, logs, metadata. Even if someone tried to cover their tracks, there are usually footprints left behind if you know where to look. I frowned. But I don't have my work laptop. It's at the office. He smiled faintly. That's where I come in. The next few hours changed everything. Liam wasn't just some generic IT guy. He specialized in investigating breaches and fraud. He showed me a secure way to log into my work email remotely from my personal laptop, something I technically shouldn't have been able to do. But apparently, Brightline's security was a joke. Once we were in, it didn't take long to notice patterns. Look at the login times, he said, pointing at the activity log. These invoices were created at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. from your account. I was asleep, I said. I live here. I'm not exactly sneaking out to the office in the middle of the night. Exactly. He clicked through more panels. And the IP addresses aren't from your apartment. They're from your office building's network. He gave a low whistle. Sloppy. I stared at the screen. So someone logged in as me from the office at night. That means they had my password. Or they reset it, he said. Or used some internal privilege. Either way, this is good for you. Good? I choked. How is any of this good? Because it proves you weren't the one sitting at that computer at 2 a.m., he answered. Combine that with the fact that you're not at the office when everything blows up, and it starts to look less like you made a mistake and more like someone set you up. We spent the rest of the late morning gathering as much as we could screenshots of login logs, timestamps of invoices, email trails where Daniel pressured me to just process things, and even messages from Megan telling me to stop overthinking. At 11:45, my phone rang again. This time I picked up. Hello, Miss Carter? This is Detective Hayes. Her voice was calm but firm. We really need you to come down to the station to answer some questions. I took a deep breath. I'm willing to cooperate, Detective, I said, but I'd like to bring some information of my own. I believe I've been set up. There was a pause. That's a serious claim, Miss Carter. So is accusing me of fraud? I replied, my voice shaking but steady. I'll be there in an hour. When I hung up, Liam nodded approvingly. You sure you want to do this? He asked. Do I have a choice? I said. They're already looking at me. I can either hide and look guilty or walk in with receipts. He smiled. That's the spirit. I'll come with you. As a technical advisor, I don't think they're going to like that, I said. They don't have to like it, he replied. But they might appreciate that I can translate geek into English for them. The police station smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. Detective Laura Hayes was in her late 30s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense posture. She sat across from me in a small interview room, a recorder on the table between us. Just for the record, she said, you understand that this is a voluntary interview, and you are not under arrest? Yes, I said, though my hands were still trembling. Liam sat beside me, a quiet, reassuring presence. Tell me about your role at Brightline, she began, and how you explain the discrepancies we found in the financial records associated with your login. I told her everything. I told her about the invoices, about Daniel's pressure, about Megan's odd behavior, about the conversation I'd overheard late at night. I told her about Liam's warning, the 5 a.m. knock, the unknown men in the lobby the night before, whispering about tying everything back to her. Then Liam slid the printed logs and screenshots across the table. These are system access logs from Brightline's network, he said, his tone calm and professional. They show that invoices were created and approved under Josephine's account during times she was verifiably at home. Additionally, the access originated from the office building, not her residence. Detective Hayes flipped through the papers, her expression unreadable. I can provide a statement, Liam added. And if you get a warrant for the company's internal logs, you'll be able to confirm everything. Hayes leaned back, studying me. You understand, she said slowly, that your boss claims you acted alone, that you manipulated the system to generate fraudulent invoices and route money into external accounts. My stomach churned. Of course he does. What's interesting, she continued, tapping her pen on the table, is that the external accounts are not in your name. They appear to be shell companies, but your boss claims you used them as intermediaries. Then he should have no problem explaining why he personally signed off on every single one, I said, my anger finally bubbling up. Why he pressured me to just process them. Why my login was used in the middle of the night from inside the office when I was at home. For the first time, a small crack appeared in her neutral expression. We're already looking into that, she said. The auditors flagged the pattern this morning, which is why we were called in. Mr. Collins, Daniel was very quick to point the finger at you. Of course he was, I muttered. She closed the folder and clasped her hands. Miss Carter, I'm not in the business of promising outcomes, but I will say this. What you've given me is compelling. We'll be bringing your boss and coworkers in for questioning. Can I ask you something? I said quietly. Go ahead. If we prove that they did this, that they tried to frame me, what happens to them? Her voice was cool. If we can show intent and a pattern of fraud, they'll be charged. And if they tried to make you the fall guy? Judges don't respond kindly to that. A slow, cold satisfaction burned in my chest. Good, because I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The next few days were a blur of interviews, emails, and waiting. So much waiting. Megan tried to call me. I let it ring. Then she texted. We need to talk, please. I stared at the message for a long time before finally replying. You had your chance to talk. With the police. I hope you told them the truth. An hour later, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of Brightline's internal announcement, effective immediately. Daniel Collins has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of an ongoing investigation. I read it 5 times. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. A week later, Detective Hayes called me back in. This time, her tone was different, less wary, more satisfied. We've confirmed your story, she said. The shell companies are connected to accounts linked to Daniel. He had help from at least one internal employee who began cooperating. When confronted with the evidence, my chest tightened. Megan? Hayes nodded. She claimed she was in over her head, that he pressured her, that she didn't know the full extent of what he was doing. But she admitted to help falsifying documents and redirecting questions about the invoices to you. I swallowed hard. So, what happens now? Formal charges will be filed, she said, against Daniel for fraud, embezzlement, and attempted frame-up, against Megan for aiding and abetting. The DA may offer her a deal in exchange for testimony, but as far as you're concerned, you're in the clear. I exhaled a breath. I felt like I'd been holding for weeks. In the clear, I repeated softly. So that's it? I just go back to my life? Hayes gave me a sympathetic look. You're free to, but I know it doesn't erase what happened. I'd also recommend talking to a lawyer about your employment situation. Wrongful termination, defamation, emotional distress. You may have options. Oh, I was already thinking bigger than that. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a series of quiet, calculated choices. First, I hired a lawyer. A good one. Grace Turner. She listened to everything, every detail, and her eyes gleamed with a kind of professional hunger. They tried to ruin you, she said bluntly. They failed. Now we make sure they regret it. We filed a formal complaint against Brightline. Wrongful termination. Daniel had fired me by email the very morning of the raid. Defamation, negligence in safeguarding my credentials, and emotional and professional damage. But that wasn't the part that really stung them. The part that really hurt was when the story broke. Local marketing exec accused of embezzlement scheme. Tried to pin crime on employee. My name wasn't in the headline. Daniel's was. Megan's was. Brightline's was. The article mentioned an unnamed employee who had cooperated with authorities and helped uncover the scheme. That was me. The best part? The reporter quoted from leaked internal emails. Emails where Daniel belittled me, pressured me, and in one particularly gross line, wrote to Megan, "She's desperate to keep this job. She'll sign anything I put in front of her." Apparently, judges don't like that either. Brightline's biggest client dropped them within 24 hours of the article. 2 more followed within a week. Their reputation tanked. I didn't just want them punished. I wanted them exposed. Megan tried reaching out again, this time through a long, rambling email about how she'd been manipulated, how she was scared, how she never meant for things to go that far. I read it once. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer. Should I respond? I asked Grace. She shook her head. She made her choices. Let her deal with the consequences. As for Daniel, he was arrested. I saw his mugshot online. The same man who used to stroll around the office like he owned the world now looked small, deflated, furious. I thought seeing it would make me happy. Instead, it made me feel finished. My revenge wasn't watching him suffer. My revenge was knowing he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't get to destroy me. He didn't get to turn me into a scapegoat. He didn't get to walk away clean. I did. One evening, weeks later, I sat on the apartment steps with Liam, sipping coffee from paper cups. The air was cool, and the sky was streaked with soft orange. So he said, nudging me with his shoulder, "Have you forgiven me for banging on your door at 5 in the morning?" I smiled. "I don't know. You did kind of derail my whole life." He laughed. "You're welcome." I looked at him seriously. "I mean it, Liam. If you hadn't said anything, if you hadn't put it together, I would have walked straight into that office and probably panicked my way into a prison sentence." He shook his head. "You would have figured it out eventually. You're sharper than you give yourself credit for." "Maybe," I said. "But I'm glad I didn't have to do it alone." We sat in comfortable silence for a while. "So what now?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to go back to work somewhere else, prove I'm not broken. Another part wants to start over completely. Maybe do something where I'm not cleaning up other people's messes all the time." "You'd be good at forensic accounting," he joked. "You already helped put a criminal behind bars." I laughed. "I'll add it to my list." I glanced at him. "Why did you really come to my door that morning, Liam? You could have just minded your business." He looked at me, eyes soft. "Because I've seen this kind of thing before. Good people get crushed because everyone else looks the other way. I didn't want to be one of those people." My throat tightened. I blinked away unexpected tears. "Thank you," I whispered. He bumped my shoulder again. "Anytime, Joe." Looking back now, I realized something important. Evil doesn't always announce itself with dramatic music and flashing lights. Sometimes it shows up in a nice suit, with a charming smile, asking you to just process this one invoice. Sometimes it looks like your best friend avoiding your eyes. Sometimes it looks like you, in the mirror, wondering if you're just overreacting. If you're listening to this right now, and there's a Daniel or a Megan in your life, someone making you doubt yourself, someone asking you to ignore that tight feeling in your chest, hear me when I say this. You are not crazy. Your instincts are not your enemy. And sometimes, the person banging on your door at 5 a.m., telling you to trust them, might just be the one who helps you save your own life. If you made it this far into my story, thank you for listening. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done if your neighbor told you not to go to work that day? Would you have trusted them? If you want to hear more real-life revenge stories and how people took their power back, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. This is Josephine. And that was the day my boss tried to frame me, and the day I learned that sometimes revenge looks a lot like justice.